3, 2, 1, and you're live.
Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I'm Wednesday, wow. I forget what day of the week it is. I mean, with everything going on, it feels like the days all merged together, but at least I know my own name. Meteorologist Addison Green here, coming in from my own home in the Galleria area. And it is a beautiful sunny day out there today, and we've been continuing this trend of nice peaceful weather across our region. And there's a reason why we are enjoying this type of weather, and I'll get to those details in a moment. In today's weather lesson, talking about weather fronts, and that is something that we typically do talk about, meteorologists in general, as well as all the meteorologists here at KHOU, in terms of a cold front coming through, or a warm front, or are we talking about maybe a stationary front hanging around? We're going to get into those details, so that way you know when a front's coming by your way, what it means. And I have Digital Director Randy with us on the phone, so we're going to be able to answer any of those questions you may have, as well as the shout outs as well to all the kids and parents watching from home. So let's dive into it, shall we? Today's lesson on weather fronts. There are several types of frontal boundaries that occur across the country and across the world in general. They are associated with boundaries between different air masses. So a day like today, it's warm and pleasant. But there may be another day when we have warm, muggy air getting pushed out with colder, dry air coming on in. Well, there's a boundary between those two air masses, and that is one of the boundaries we're going to be discussing right here today for you. And also, these fronts, they are typically associated with areas of low pressure. Areas of low pressure are the big weather storm makers that give us our scattered thunderstorms, or perhaps a cloudy day. All of that is associated with an area of low pressure. And a day like today, we have an area of high pressure dominating our scenario, so we don't have to worry about any inclement weather coming our way. Instead, the sun, I should say, is shining down nicely. It's dry and comfortable, and we are enjoying a nice pleasant breeze. Now, the first front we're going to discuss is a cold front, and we typically look for those to come by all times of the year across here in southeastern Texas, but they mean different things based on what time of the year they're coming in. We're talking about a big rush of cold, dry air making it feel very chilly outside, or we are enjoying relatively cool, refreshing air after having to deal with very muggy conditions. It's all based on when that cold front comes by. But it's associated with a blue line on the map that has triangles on it. You can see right there by that example, and they point in the direction of the air that it is moving. So, say the cold front's coming in from the west. Say it's coming in from, say, San Antonio or Austin, for instance. That cold front, those triangles will be pointed towards here in Houston, pointing to the east with that cold, dry air rushing on in from the west. And with a cold front coming on in across our region, it's typically associated with scattered showers, maybe even thunderstorms, depending upon the time of year. A wind shift, as the winds will be coming in ahead of that cold front from, say, the southeasterly direction, and then behind the cold front, now those winds are coming in out of a west-northwest direction, drawing in that drier air. Also, the humidity will start to go down as well, hence talking about drier conditions. May feel very steamy up ahead of a cold front arrival, but once it passes, those storms move out of the picture. The air feels refreshing, and we have a good breeze coming on in. We definitely do look for those to come by in the summertime to give us some relief from sometimes the oppressive and very muggy air that could be with us during that time of the year. Speaking of warm and muggy, we got to talk about a warm front. That is a red line you can see right there associated with half circles, and it points in the direction that the air is moving. And typically that warm front will be rising up from the south and heading northward. So behind the front, it's going to be on the warmer side of things, but before the front passes, it may be a little cool, a little dreary, but as that warm front passes, we'll start to see some scattered clouds come on in. Also, maybe seeing a few scattered showers depending upon the time of year, and also we'll be noticing those temperatures gradually rising. So that's something that we look forward to in the wintertime to help get a break from any chill that may be around this part of the country. Now, there is a time when the fronts aren't moving. That's when we talk about a stationary front, hence the name stationary. Stationary means it's not moving or it's barely moving, say like a snail crawling across the ground. It's very much moving, I should say, on a very sluggish, slow pace. That is a line that is broken down by red half circles and blue triangles. Notice they are on opposite sides of the line right there, indicating that the air masses aren't moving across the region, but that boundary is still there between the two different air masses, one on each side of the front. And it happens when, like I said, a cold front or a warm front slows down to a crawl, and it's associated with different temperatures and winds on either side. Say, for instance, we have a stationary front right across I-10, the I-10 corridor going right through the city. Well, to the north of the stationary front, it may be a little bit cooler with winds coming out of a southeasterly direction, no, northeasterly direction I should say, coming in from, say, Missouri or Arkansas. But below that stationary front, below the I-10 corridor, it may be on the warmer and muggy side of things with winds coming in right off the Gulf of Mexico. So that's where we deal with those two air masses not moving really. So we have that stationary front in place, and until one of the air masses moves, then we get the chance for seeing that front start to change. Maybe it's a cold front or warm front, and finally switch out the air masses. But think of it like a big traffic jam. Nothing's moving, and then once we clear out that traffic jam, then we get the chance for starting to see that front start to move because the air masses are now moving. Another front to talk about, that's an occluded front, and that is a purple line on the map with alternating triangles and half circles, and it happens when cold air displaces the warm air. So say you have a warm, muggy day like you do have today, and the cold air is rushing on in. Well, as that cold front, since a cold front moves faster than a warm front, once it catches up to that warm front, now we are dealing with the same type of front on both sides of that front, and now we are talking about that warm front coming on in, and it's associated with scattered showers as well as being close to the center area of low pressure, which you typically do find moving across the country, giving us the wet weather, whether it's scattered showers, thunderstorms, or even for some parts of the country, not typically here though, chance for seeing some winter weather to come on in. Also, you'll notice that's a little cloudy whenever you're talking about an occluded front, when we typically do find ourselves dealing with that for a brief period of time before that system moves out of the picture. Now let's put it all into perspective right here, because this is the latest satellite and radar imagery coming across the country. Now we can show you where those fronts are and the temperatures associated with them. So right here, as we look across the lower 48, we do see high pressure sitting just around the Dallas area, say the Texarkana area, so that's just north of Houston. That's the same system that's been giving us this great weather since Sunday afternoon, since Easter Sunday. So it's been great yesterday, it's great Monday, it's going to be great today, and it's going to be pretty good tomorrow as well with that high pressure in place. But we do find ourselves looking at to our north. We have a warm front attached to an area of low pressure near Colorado, near Denver, Colorado to be more precise, and behind it we do have some blue on the map, some white as well. That indicates snow showers. There was another cold front as well pushing out there towards the east coast. You can see south of Atlanta, Georgia right there, that cold front is making its way into Florida, and there are scattered showers and thunderstorms associated with it. So we'll dive into that region in just a second. And also to the north, you go just around the Chicago area, the Great Lakes area, we see that red and blue line, alternating line right there. That's a stationary front. So we have scattered showers on both sides of that front. But because it's colder to the north of the front, different air mass, than what's south of the front, we have snow showers up in places like Chicago and Toronto in Canada, and then we have rain showers going further southward across Ohio and into Kentucky. So there's several examples right there of the fronts we were just talking about. Now let's make our way into the temperatures across the board with those fronts on them, and so that way we can see the change in the air masses for temperatures. So looking right there up across our region, we have 67 degrees in Houston. It is comfortable, it is enjoyable, it is beautiful. We also have some 60s to our north in Amarillo. Look just north of that though, past that red half circle line. That's the warm front, and we see temperatures running cooler. That's because the warm front has yet to pass those areas that have yet to bring up that warmer condition. Further to the north, you go across, say, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. We have temperatures in the 30s and 40s. It's very chilly over that way. That's where that cold air is in place, and that's where it's going to stay for the time being. Around that stationary front I mentioned to you, up across in Ohio by Chicago and Detroit, we can see temperatures in the 30s in Chicago and Detroit, but just south of that in Louisville, that's Louisville, Kentucky, we are in the 50s and seeing rain showers. So still dealing with showers on both sides of that front, But because it's colder on one side than the other side, we're seeing those two different types of precipitation. Snow on one side and rain on the other side. Let's head on in across some of those regions that we were just discussing, like the southeast. Now we have that cold front making its way up across the northern portion of Florida. You can see right there scattered showers, some heavy downpours coming on down. It's indicated by the green to yellow to orange to red, maybe even seeing some possible strong thunderstorms over that way in places like Jacksonville. But notice behind the cold front, there's not much going on at all. The air is becoming drier. We are starting to see the winds switching out of a northerly direction, bringing in cooler air that's much more stable air. And behind the cold front, it's going to become more relaxing. It'll be a little breezy as well, but it won't be stormy. But up ahead of it, we can see those winds coming in, say Tampa. They're coming out of a southerly direction, and we are starting to see those scattered showers and thunderstorms starting to form as that cold front continues to push further southward over time. And you can see right there the temperatures for yourself, showing you the difference in the two different air masses. It's warm, it's muggy, it's a little steamy as well across central and southern Florida. We got 86 degrees in Tampa. Yeah, it's a little off in the map, but don't worry about that. Tampa is still on the land, not in the Gulf of Mexico. We have 91 degrees in Miami, but look just to the north of that blue triangle line. That's the cold front. We have 66 degrees in Tallahassee, 64 in Savannah, and 60 degrees in Atlanta. So as that cold front's coming on in, as those thunderstorms come on by, we see that all the time over here, temperatures are cooling down. The air is getting drier. The winds are shifting directions. All of that is associated with a cold front. And it feels much more comfortable in Atlanta, Georgia right now than as opposed to Tampa, where it's on the muggier side of things. You can feel that humidity in the air. Let's go up across central portions of the plains. We're talking about Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska. You can see right there, there's a big L with arrows spinning around it counterclockwise. That's an area of low pressure. And there are some scattered showers associated with it across northeastern Colorado. But look at that red half circle line going all the way down through Kansas and into Oklahoma. That's the warm front we were talking about. Winds behind the front are coming in out of a southerly direction. They're bringing up warmth. They're bringing up moisture as well. But up ahead of that warm front, we do see some scattered clouds around. We do see some scattered showers, and also temperatures are trending cooler. In fact, they're in the 40s in Omaha, Nebraska, 49 degrees. Dodge City is at 58. But you're going to watch Dodge City eventually have those temperatures go higher, because you can see in Amarillo in the Panhandle, 63 degrees. So they are going to be enjoying a gradual rise in temperatures over time as that warm front continues to move across the region. Now, there's one more frontal boundary we have to talk about, and we do typically have that being an issue right here in the Lone Star State. That is the dry line, and it doesn't pop up in too many spots across the country. It's typically in the southern plains, here in Texas, Oklahoma, and also the desert southwest, New Mexico and Arizona. And it's a little bit different than the other fronts we were just talking about. First of all, it looks different. It's going to be on the brown shade of color. Hollow brown half circles along a brown line is what makes up the dry line on the map. And it marks a change in moisture content. That is the dew points right there. Meteorologist Erica Lopez was talking about moisture content and dew points yesterday. So we already have an idea of what the dew points are, what the moisture content in the atmosphere means. And as we watch that dry line start to push in towards a region, we're going to be seeing, based on the time of day, thunderstorms start to develop along it, because all that warm, muggy air, it has to rise in the atmosphere. And once it does so, it's running into cooler, dry air aloft. Those air masses clash, and we get the chance for seeing thunderstorms form. But once the dry line moves further to, say, the east, say it goes towards Dallas, San Antonio, we see those thunderstorms fire on up, and then the dry line starts to move back towards western Texas, towards, say, Midland, Odessa, El Paso, and that's where it will sometimes move back and forth as we go through the late spring and summer weeks. So that is something that we are going to be getting our hands to really get a firm grasp around as we go through the rest of April, May, and into June. And it's definitely going to be an issue for some spots, because along the dry line, you can easily get torrential downpours and strong to severe weather, and then may see several days of that coming around. Now, we don't really have too much of a big difference in moisture content across Texas today. That's because that high pressure system came through, cleared everything out from Sunday into Monday, and we've been enjoying nice, tranquil, comfortable air across our region. So I just put the little dry line right down there, just south of Victoria, going out towards Harlingen. If I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, let me know, down towards Harlingen. But we have dew points, that measure of moisture in the atmosphere, in the mid-50s down across in the southern tip. But further to the north, we have 40s, and you go further to the north into, say, Abilene, Dallas, Tyler, even Amarillo, we see those dew points going to the 30s and 20s, which means it's getting to the comfortable to even dry side of things. Maybe even hands need to have an extra amount of lotion put on them. Maybe you need to put a chapstick on, perhaps, because the air is very dry. But that is what we typically do find once a dry line passes and all that moisture has been removed from the atmosphere. So that's a little bit of a summary of the frontal boundaries across the region and what we typically do find right here across the lower 48. So I'm going to go ahead and take any questions, any comments you may have. We have Digital Director Randy with us. So Randy, do we have anything to discuss?
Yes, Addison, actually we do. Let's see, the first question is from Preston. Why does a warm front only produce showers and thunderstorms?
Hi, Kristen. In case anybody didn't hear that, why does a warm front produce scattered showers and thunderstorms? Well, when you're talking about a warm front, let me go ahead and advance to that graphic for you. The warm front is going to slowly be moving out colder, drier air and replacing it with warm, more moisture-laden air. So the atmosphere has a little more moisture to work with. But it's going to be a very slow progression because warm air is very shallow on the surface, where the cold air is going to be denser. And so as that warm front is gradually pushing up that cold air, we see along the warm front clouds forming, and those clouds will eventually yield out some scattered showers, maybe even a thunderstorm if it's a very strong warm front. But typically it's just scattered showers, and we have a very small progression right there of those scattered showers developing because the clouds are increasing that moisture content. So picture my hand being the warm front, and we have the cold air right there. Cold air is being slowly pushed up along the warm front. Remember how I said air rising in the atmosphere, it's cooling, and it's starting to clash in the air masses? Well, we're starting to get the chance for scattered showers to form right along the warm front, and that's falling down towards us here at the surface.
Okay, and let's see what else we got. We have how do air masses slow or don't move at all?
How do air masses slow or don't move at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Who asked that question, Randy?
That was also Preston.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Preston, for your question again. So air masses are typically being able to slow down because there's a traffic jam in the atmosphere. And let me go ahead and get to my satellite radar imagery. So the jet stream, and we talked about this in the previous weather class, and I'm sure we'll get to it again and kind of go through these lessons again over time. The jet stream is that river of air aloft of winds moving super fast around the northern hemisphere, and there's another one in the southern hemisphere. And every now and then the jet stream will kind of like buckle. So picture like a belt, and picture that belt being very flat, going like in a straight line, to you scrunching it together, and now it's all wavy up and down. Well, now that it's wavy up and down, you have to go through all those curves in order to get through that same area. So that's where sometimes the jet stream may buckle, and then we have air masses running into a traffic jam, which includes high pressure systems and low pressure systems. So because the weather is all connected around the planet, if there's a backup, a traffic jam, so to speak, in, say, the northern portions of the Atlantic Ocean, Europe, Russia, wherever, that may lead to changes down the way. And since the weather on this hemisphere, the northern hemisphere that we live in, flows from west to east, if we do, say, have a big traffic jam, things may slow down, and then we may see those things come to a crawl. Now, right here, on our surface map, we do see that there's an area of low pressure sitting right there just east of New York City. Well, it's not really moving too much right now, so that's why the next area of low pressure coming behind it has a stationary front associated with it because it's not able to switch out those air masses quick enough. And so we have the two air masses just kind of sitting nearby, cold air to the north, mild air to the south, without much room to move. Air masses can't go away, they can't disappear, they just have to wait until that traffic jam opens up and we get those storm systems, indicated by the areas of low pressure right there, starting to move across the country.
And that's about it on questions, Addison.
Oh, okay. It's a really light day today. Any more shout-outs, Randy?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. We have. Actually, you know what? Gail. I see a question from Gail that just came in. Do we see fronts before hurricanes?
Okay. So Gail asked, do we see fronts before hurricanes? And we do not have fronts associated with hurricanes. Hurricanes are kind of on their own. They do their own thing. They don't have any fronts associated with them because the air around that center circulation of a hurricane is going to be the same throughout. It has a warm core through it. And we will definitely be talking about hurricanes as we approach the hurricane season when it officially starts June 1st, as well as building up to it where we get you prepped for hurricane evacuations and safety kits and all that stuff. That will definitely be covered by several lessons here at KHOU. But a hurricane itself does not have any frontal boundaries associated with it. As it starts to move towards an area, say right here in southeastern Texas, if there's a cold front, actually, scratch that. I'm going to use the example you can see right there on the map. That cold front that's going through northern Florida is gradually moving southward. Now, say we were in June, July, August in the hurricane season and a hurricane was approaching, that cold front wouldn't fade away, but it might help to pick up the area of that hurricane and might try and bring it further in towards the lower 48, or it may try to push it out to sea. It all depends on what's going on in the atmosphere around it. But bottom line, hurricanes are not associated with frontal boundaries themselves. They don't have any, but they may be steered by a frontal boundary or maybe moved in a different direction depending upon what's going on that day in the weather world.
Okay, and that looks like all the questions. If you want to give a shout out, we've got Star, who thanking us for this. Laura.
Hi, Star. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us here on our latest weather classroom session.
And let's see, Misha. Misha's a regular.
Hi, Misha. So glad you can join us again, and you keep following us as well. So hopefully you're picking up some great weather tidbits out there that you can definitely, maybe teach your parents a thing or two, or teach your siblings as well.
And Chris says this is cool.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much. Yes, weather fronts, I learned them in Weather 101, for instance, and I've always loved putting them on the maps, always liked seeing those changes in the air masses. And while we can't see fronts outside, we can see the effects they have when they move through our region, such as how it was stormy one moment and then it clears out nicely and it gets drier and cooler. You just had a cold front pass through. Or it was a little on the cooler, drier side of things at one point during the day, and then you have warm, muggy air slowly pushing on in. You may have just had a warm front pass on by you. So while you can't see those fronts in your area, they're definitely making themselves well known and hopefully not making it feel too uncomfortable in your neck of the woods.
Okay, that looks like about it on questions.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on our latest weather classroom session. Either you'll have meteorologist Erica Lopez tomorrow or Chief Meteorologist David Paul doing the next weather lesson, and we're going to continue bringing you the weather information you need to know right in your own neighborhood and your own room as well, your own living room. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you later on the 411. Tune in for that.